Hey everybody, it's Mama Kay coming back at you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And I am so thrilled to have this person on screen right now with me because we've had some interesting moments trying to get this Zoom set up between not having video come through and phones falling down and, just regular fun life. And that's one of the greatest things about these interviews is that life is what it is, and that's what makes it excellent. So I've known this person for, oh my goodness, over 25 years. Yeah, we've gone through some interesting life experiences together, apart but yet together. And I'm so happy that they have been a part of my journey on this earth, and I can't wait for you to get to know them a little bit better. So without further ado, special guest, who are you?
My name is Jaylene Johnson, and I am a Winnipeg singer-songwriter, though mostly songwriter now.
How long have you been doing that, Jaylene?
Well, I started gigging in high school with a group called Take Five. And after high school, my gigs sort of went to jazz combo type things. And then I started to write my own songs and record my own original music, which wasn't jazz. But yeah, and sort of took it from there. So that's been, I guess that was about 20 years ago now.
So you sing, obviously. What other instruments do you play?
Well, to be honest, now I can't sing. I've actually been diagnosed with a neurological condition that has impeded my ability to sing. I noodle around on the guitar, use it for songwriting, and I play the keyboard or piano, as you can see probably in the background here. But when I said I'm mainly songwriting now, that is true. So I can't gig on my own, but I can still write songs and help other people find their voice in their music.
And you've actually had some success in the television world, right? With some of your songs.
Yeah, I was very fortunate that some of my songs landed in the right hands and worked very well for some scenes on some network TV shows. And so, yeah, I mean, when I have worked with students, sometimes they'll know the show Pretty Little Liars, and most people have heard of So You Think You Can Dance. And there were some shows in the past as well. So that's been fun for me.
So how do you get your music out when to have them accessible for shows like that?
Well, music supervisors have very interesting jobs. They're always receiving music from people, but because they're receiving so much music, I think the best way to connect with them is in a more kind of personal way or in a friendly way, and thinking about it as a service, right? What are they working on? Would your music even suit what they're working on? Instead of them receiving your adult contemporary music, and meanwhile they're doing a show that is, mainly heavy metal oriented, right? It's not going to work. So some of it is just doing your research. In my case, I was fortunate to meet music supervisors at music conferences that I attended, where I could connect with them. And I asked them, how would you like to receive the music, or would you be open to hearing my music? And they were. And so a relationship was formed. But I don't think they enjoy people just, sending MP3s to their email address and you have to listen. Well, I've sat in music supervisors' offices and seen CD walls, bins of USB, what are they called? The flash drives, right? And hard drives lined up of music. And most of the time in their lives, I mean, it's interesting, we're talking about music supervision, but in their lives, once a show is ready for editing, the very last thing to come in are the songs. So they have a very quick turnaround time. They need to know, will this song work? Is this artist going to be okay with sending contracts quick, right? Is the communication good? They will take some options to the director or to the team, and they'll maybe even have lined the song up with the visual and played it through, and your song may or may not get chosen. If it's not chosen, it's not the music supervisor's fault. It's just that
you put yourself out there to get to know them on a different level before even approaching the business side, right? You've come to them, like you said, with an offering of, here's my music, will it work? Rather than just an email, like the impersonal, right? That you have gone that extra step to make that human connection.
Right. Like if I didn't know the music supervisor at all, if we'd never met, but I'm convinced that my music would be a good fit for whatever show they work on. It might be an email, something like, hi, my name's Jaylene Johnson. I have, some music that I think might be a good fit for your show, but I'm not, I realize you receive a lot of music, acknowledging them, acknowledging their time. I would love to send you something if you felt like that might be a good fit for what you do. Or if you were open to receiving music, I'd love to send you something. Or when you know somebody, then it might be the conversation might go something like this. What are you working on these days? Maybe I have something that might be a fit. Perfect. Now, if you can produce your own music, which is something I'm not able to do at this stage, but if you can produce well and you have a good relationship with music supervisors, then they know they might have a go-to person to say, hey, we're working on this series and we're looking for a new cover of, whatever, a famous song. You might be able to actually put something together for them. And the quicker you can do it and to good quality and being a nice person to work with, you might get some work that way too.
So now, obviously, this just didn't all happen for you. So I would love to know what your journey was from baby Jaylene all the way up to, I would say, when you said you started becoming, having music as your career. Let's go way back.
Okay. The very first time I remember being on stage, I was a toddler, and it was the Christmas pageant at church. And I grabbed the microphone and pulled it in. So, they were passing the microphone along the line of kids, and we each had a little verse to say. Well, I was not close enough to that mic. I grabbed it, hauled it in, said my thing, and everyone kind of clapped and smiled. And I remembered that, right? And so after the service was over, there's me back on the platform again, and I'm saying my verse again, because I understood that I had done something that was fun, funny, special. And then I also remember very clearly a gig I did with my mom. I was a toddler and she was singing in a care home, and she brought me up on stage and I sang. And again, I remember the sunlight coming in through the windows, and I remember the smiles on their faces, and essentially this energy where I knew that I had done something that changed the room, that brought joy. And we had experienced something together because I had sung this song. So those were very key experiences, believe it or not. And I think what I've always carried with me is this desire that if I'm going to do music, I want it to connect with people. So there's the self-expression aspect of it, but the real joy is when beyond our own catharsis and our own, working out our stuff, which music can do amazingly for us. It's so therapeutic and beautiful. And as artists, honestly, express however you want to express. But I think that there is this amazing aspect to music where it connects people, and where now you are in this experience together. Now you are having the therapeutic moment together, right? Or now this experience that you've written about, or that you're singing about, or this emotion that you're feeling is felt by everyone. I mean, that is a whole other level. That's where we talk about music as a universal language, right? It just can cross barriers. And that is what I love about music. So through my life, I came through taking some private lessons, obviously with piano, and some singing lessons later, high school musicals, being part of groups. And then after high school, that was something of a crisis. Because while I was leading some music in church, which was always part of my journey, and singing solos in church, after high school, nothing's organized for you. You have to kind of start figuring that stuff out on your own. How do I book a gig? How do I connect with other musicians? What kind of music am I going to play or sing? And for me, some of the music that was already written wasn't really expressing what I needed to say. So that was impetus for me to be writing my own songs, And then, now I'm writing my own songs. The initial songs, are they any good? Are they actually connecting the way I need them to? So there's this big learning curve with songwriting as well. And then I did my first record in, 1999, 2000. And that sort of launched something for me in doing my first album of original music. And since then I've done 4 complete albums, 2 EPs. I had a stint co-published with a company in Toronto. I've sat on panels at conferences and now do quite a bit of mentoring work. And songwriting has become just an equal passion to the singing, you know, and helping other artists to develop songs that say what they need to say as artists, but that connect well with other people.
You've been nominated for some awards too, haven't you?
You know, yeah, it's funny, you know, yeah, I had a Juno nomination, which was, honestly, that year, Joanne, was a highlight. It was so much fun. Such a great year. Won some Covenant Awards, nominations for Western Canadian Music Awards, and won International Songwriting Competition Awards and stuff. But I was thinking about it and I thought, you know, when you're just starting out, you see these milestones as, you know, when this happens, I will have arrived. You know, then that will be a validation that says, you know, something about me. I don't even know what it's supposed to say, but you're sort of seeing that as a goal marker. And then it happens. And I mean, it's wonderful. It's not that it's not an honor, but it doesn't really change anything in a fundamental way. You add it to your bio and it's neat, but you're still probably going to struggle with crippling insecurity, as every artist does. I mean, I was thinking about our conversation today and thinking about high-level artists that I've had conversations with who don't know each other from Adam and who have both said to me, you know, sometimes at night, I wonder if tomorrow I'll wake up and everyone will have figured out that I don't know what I'm doing. Right?
Yep.
These are Juno Award winners, like multi-album sales, you know, make their living at music, relatively famous in their genres. So winning awards, while it can be a validation, I don't think it's the essence of what we do. I think we can make some other goals for ourselves that are more substantial than that.
You've had some really amazing music educators along the way. Do you want to share who some of your teachers have been?
Yes, as a matter of fact, thank you for bringing that up, because I know you did an interview with one of them. Joanne Mercier was my piano and voice teacher. I mean, I had a few, but for voice, I had her. I had a couple piano teachers, but Joanne was, oh man, she was a good teacher for the soul, not just the skills, but the soul of me. And she's the one who taught me that you practice and you learn your skills, and then you take it all and you put it in your back pocket. When you get up to perform, you just do. You just be what you are, and you trust that the practice that you've done will be there for you, you know? And so, yeah, she's a wonderful teacher. And Marilyn Redicott sort of plucked me out of the French immersion program and pulled me over to Glenlawn Collegiate. She'd been leading an honor choir that I was in, a divisional honor choir. And she said, hey, you know, what do you think about coming to Glenlawn? And we could do some musicals, and I'll put you in some groups and stuff. And that's exactly what she did. Off I went to Glenlawn, and all of a sudden I was singing in these groups and given tons of opportunity to get up in front of people and kind of shake some of the nerves out and learn about this, about entertaining, you know? And she has stayed a very good friend. She is more than a teacher, a highly inspiring person. And, you know, I really credit her in a lot of ways with what I was able to do later.
Interesting that you started as a gym teacher, hey?
I know, yeah, I know. But I will say too that my experience being able to do music in church also has to be mentioned, because I was very fortunate to be part of a church that let young people participate and were extremely gracious, because we weren't perfect, right? And they were so gracious and appreciative. And they'd put young people with older people. Like, there was this whole kind of natural development that happened. And that had a major impact on my development musically, and, you know, getting up in front of people, being allowed to organize some concerts and events, and learning how to do that in a very gracious, forgiving, accepting, and safe environment. Fabulous.
Exactly. They made that safe place to fail. Like
Yes.
me, that's what I know a lot of the teachers I've talked to that have the most successful programs, right, is that they have created that culture in their rooms where
Yeah.
the kids feel safe to take risks. And it sounds
Yes.
like that's exactly what your church community did for you.
Yeah, mine and countless others. Like, how many artists that are famous will say, I grew up singing in church, right? Like, how many 10-year-olds have the opportunity to have a large audience of people to sing for? You know, and here I was sitting at a piano, writing, singing an original song at 10 years old, right? I mean, so yeah, that has to be mentioned. And Lloyd Peterson, who produced my first record, he's the one, I went into the studio to do a jazz and gospel album, and he's the one that said to me, well, do you write any of your own songs? Now, I had been in a rock band in high school with a bunch of guys. You know, some of those guys. And I mean, they would laugh at me when I would bring my original songs. Why? Because they were teenage guys, right? I mean, I don't want to be sexist about it, but they were all rock and roll and like loud guitars. And I mean, maybe the fact that they were guys has nothing to do with it. It's just that I felt like, well, they surely must know what they're doing. I mean, look at those licks they can play on the guitar. So I didn't think I really could write songs because I wasn't really writing what they were writing. And then Lloyd said to me, well, do you write any of your own songs? And I'd sort of been dabbling with it, I guess, because words always were my thing. Music was always my thing. How did I wanted to marry those two things together, but I was desperately insecure. Could I do it, And he heard a few of my songs, Lloyd did, and he said, Jaylene, you're a songwriter. He said, why don't you do an album of your own music? And that's all the validation I needed from somebody that I clearly felt was in the know. Now, do I wish that I'd had my own sense of confidence to have just said to the rock band friends, well, you don't know anything, like I just did my own thing anyway. Yeah, I do, but I didn't, and sometimes it takes that mentor, that person that has more experience to give us that encouragement and that nudge and say, no, like, keep writing songs. And boy, am I ever glad that he did that.
Well, don't you think that that's an important part of your journey too, is being around people where you really had to experience what it felt like with those other people in the band that really gave you that look, and then how good that felt when you got that validation, but then also being able to have the empathy now to mentor others and bring that story too, right? Like, I've been there, I know what it feels like, right? Whereas if they had said, yeah, your songs are great right away, would you have had that opportunity with that other person afterwards?
No. And the thing is, my songs, even though I had that encouragement from Lloyd, my songs, they were beginning songwriter songs. And I would learn, because again, my goal in my heart was to connect. So, I mean, it's not like the songs didn't have some good qualities or some musicality. I mean, two of those songs went on to win some kind of cool prizes that made me go, okay, well, maybe I am okay at this, and keep developing. But they weren't ready for commercial, like for any kind of massive connection, right? Because I was at the beginning of my skills as a songwriter, and I think had I had, ego at play maybe in high school, or more confidence, I might not have been as open to learning. And that's been my journey, has been learning, and I'm still learning as a craftswoman, learning about writing songs.
So I'm very, very curious about this next answer. Now, of course, remember, it's a family show. Would you like to share one of the strangest or weirdest gigs that you've ever been involved in?
Yes. Hands down, singing in a barn in southern Saskatchewan for a team penning windup, where half the room was really into what I was doing, and the other half, partway through, during one of my more poignant songs, turned out the lights while I was singing, never mind, turned out the lights and turned on their slideshow from their team penning year. And so we have that going on while I'm trying to connect and communicate. And the funniest part of that gig, which I was very appreciative. I mean, the person that invited me was family. And I mean, I know that they were so well-intentioned, but during the sound check for that gig, I'll just never forget, the horse, was it a horse or some kind of animal coming to the door of the barn and looking in. And then when I came out, all the cows were lined up against the fence. And my guitar player, my fellow musician that was with me, I mean, wow, did we laugh. Like it was so funny. What an odd place to do a singer-songwriter kind of gig, you know?
I have to ask, do you said it's called penning or pinning?
Penning.
And what is that?
It's a really cool sport where people on horseback, there's cattle that have numbers.
Yeah.
And so they'll call out the numbers and you have to go on horseback, or you and your partner, and you have to just take out those numbers from the herd. And then you have to get them to go into a pen. So anyway.
So you were called in for the Windup Party?
I was, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So the lesson is, as much as someone might love your music and be well-intentioned, which they completely were, and there were people, like I said, who were really like appreciative, but your music should be a good fit for the gig. And then the other gig that was memorable that I'll never forget was a folk festival in Salmon Arm. And I was put on a slot that was honestly not great. No one was there yet, and no one knew who I was. I mean, I was just a beginning artist. And then there was a alpaca. So as I'm singing, the alpaca, you know, just walked across in front of the stage.
Jaylene, you surely talk to the animals. I love it.
You know, the animals dig what I do. What can I say?
So I have a variety of students that have been watching the videos. And do you have any sort of words of advice for anybody who might be thinking about going into music as a career?
Yeah, you know, that is such a great question, because it can be answered in a practical way. It can be answered in a philosophical way. As much as, so there's the thing that I mentioned before, which is we are often musicians because we have a gift at it maybe, or we've built skills at it, and it does something for us, right? It just, there's a soul thing. There's something in us. We have to play. We want to play. We just love what it does for us. But then there's this piece about what it can do for community and for connection. And so over the years, I think I'm coming to a place now where I want to see the gifts that I have as not just for me, but as a way that I can serve. And if we can take that mindset with us into all of our future, even business partnerships potentially, and have an attitude of service, I think we can, I think having that posture is where great relationships can be built that can help further our career. So for example, let's just take an example of, you want to do a gig, you know, you're looking for a good opportunity to do a gig at a certain venue once we're allowed to do that, you know, when this COVID-19, when we're through with that. If we can think about service, obviously we want the gig because we want to say we've done a gig there. We want people to be able to come out and hear us. But what is the way we can serve that restaurateur, that restaurant owner, with what we do? And in an ideal world, we have a win-win proposition for everyone involved. We win something, they win something, the audience that comes wins something with our great music. If we end up in situations where it's not a win-win, it's really hard to keep that relationship going, you know, and to kind of further things. So on our end, what do we do to make sure it's a win? Well, we have to first make sure we have great songs, or even just good songs, whether they are our own or we're covering songs that other people do, songs that make sense for who we are as an artist, for what we want to say. We need to make sure that we're well rehearsed, not just that we can play well, but also we've thought about our live show a little bit. How are we going to entertain people? People don't want to just hear songs from a CD. You know, they love to engage with us. So how are we going to engage with the crowd? Promotion. Who is responsible for promoting the show, making sure we get people in? And I have failed big time in that area many times in my career, you know, where I expected maybe the venue to do the promotion and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I've had successful shows too. So, you know, I have learned, but in any case, there's that aspect. So, but what can we do from the artist ends to make sure it's a win for the other person? And the other thing is to carry people along with us, not carrying as in a burden, but to bring people along. So I met a mayor, I'm not going to say who, but I met a mayor in an airport because I used to be a flight attendant, right? So I'd meet a lot of different people. And as I was shaking their hand, they were looking over my shoulder for the next person to meet. Okay. And I mean, it's a human thing to do, right? I mean, we're busy, we're in a busy place. You might end up at a music conference someday and you really want to chat with somebody, or, you know, you really want to chat with somebody, but you get interrupted with someone you don't really want to chat with. As much as we can, honor the person, the people that are in front of us. And understand that that relationship actually might be the key relationship that moves your career forward in a positive way. I was at Canadian Music Week. It was 2006, I believe, 2006 or 2005, anyway, somewhere in there. And I had said to myself, I'm going to go to Canadian Music Week and I'm not going to strive. I'm not going to like try to elbow people out of the way to try to get to the person I want to talk to and like, you know, be that go-getter. I'm just going to be open to whatever happens. If that means conversation with the janitor, great. So lo and behold, here I am at this conference and there's a woman there that I knew. We had established a relationship when I had toured across Canada, and I would go into every single place that was connected to my music in some way. So I'd go to radio stations, shake hands. I'd go to music stores that were still selling CDs when that was a thing. And I'd gone to SoCan and I'd met her there. We had started a relationship. And I sat beside her at a conference panel. During the panel, I learned that one of the guys on the panel was doing something that I was very interested in as a songwriter. But afterwards I said, no, I'm not going to go. Everybody rushed the panelists afterwards. And I said, I'm not going to do that. So I'm not saying there isn't a place for that, but this was just my MO. Well, lo and behold, my friend said to me, hey, we're doing a function later. Why don't you come? It was by invite only. So off I went to the function, and who happened to be there but the very panelists that I wanted to talk to. We had a conversation and I signed my first publishing deal within, I think, 4 months of that. Right? So anyway, I don't know, that's a bit of a bunny trail, but I think as much as we can as artists, where we can be a little bit self-focused, if we can think outside of ourselves and honor each other as human beings, honor relationships, and look for ways that it can be a win-win experience for everyone, do our part in that, honor people's time, you know, and the stressors that they bring to things, like the stressors they have in their lives, honor their time, and also look for ways to connect, for our music to connect and to have us just experience it together. And the last thing that I'll say about that is, because you're asking for advice, I've sort of gone the philosophical approach, is never let anyone rob your joy. If you decide to go into the music business, there will be hard things like any job, you know, even though you're doing what you love, it is not a lucrative business for most people involved with it. Okay, you may have to do a day job. That doesn't mean you're not an artist. It just means you have to do a day job. And sometimes having the comfort of a paycheck can actually free you up creatively for the time that you are being creative. So don't worry about it if you have to have a day job. You're not a failure. But I think it's easy to lose the joy when there's so many tasks and stressful things just to get ahead in the music business. Go back, center ourselves, take deep breaths, and remember why we do it in the first place.
Great
Joy.
advice.
Yeah,
Great
there's
advice.
a lot of advice, right?
Well, it's wonderful. I mean, even for someone, you know, our age.
Yeah.
The prime of our lives that we're at. I know I've rekindled my joy of playing over this weird time that we're in, and it's been great. I haven't practiced this much in a very, very long time, and it's just so much fun. And I'm not practicing for anything in particular other than just having fun. It's like, it reminded me of when I would have my little tape recorder and I would record myself playing one part of a duet, and then I would put it on, and then I would be a duet with myself, and just again, rekindling that joy. And I've always been a very happy person, but I sort of had lost that spark. So yeah.
Yeah. That's great, Joe.
And one last question for you, times being what they are, do you have any extra bits of worldly wisdom, tips and tricks for getting through all this right now that might be helping you out?
Oh, for getting through like right now?
Yeah, certain things that you find are quite helpful for yourself.
Well, I mean, right now my main gig is as a mom of two very busy toddlers. And there's a lot of joy in that. And it is also busy. So it means that my artistic life, you know, I don't have as much time for that as I would like to have. But I think something that's helped me, and again, this is a philosophical thing, so going back to our other question, is to see life as a long game, not as a short, you know, for example, if I'm not working with this person, like, or they don't want to work with me right now, well, it's okay. It's a long game. It might not be a good fit right now, and I might not have a lot, you know, or in my case, I might not have a lot of time to be, you know, writing songs, even cleaning my office, right? But there will be time for that. It's okay. It'll come, you know? So find the joy when we get those moments to play or write a song or whatever it is we do, practice our instrument, look for opportunities for sure, keep building skills, but don't stress too much if all the things you want aren't happening right now. It's a long life to live. It's a long journey.
I love it. Absolutely. Joy in the little things, be in the moment, right?
Yep.
Pay attention to where you are right now. And thank you for taking time out of this crazy time to spend time with me, and without distraction and without chaos, we have this time, and it's so special.
Yes, and I'm so honored to be part of your cool YouTube series. And anytime you want to talk, as you can tell, I enjoy talking. So hit me up, you know.
We always figure we're related on some level, right? We both got the cheeks. We got to connect more
I know.
often.
Yeah, we're both the round faces, and I know. Didn't people think we were sisters at one point?
I think so. Jay, all the best to you. Sending you hugs, and I hope I get to give you a great big hug in person sometime soon.
Me too. Okay, you take care, Joe. Thanks again, eh?
Bye, Jay.
Bye.